there's a little pull down thing, and can just go through that and take a quickie look. And then I discovered that there's more than meets the eye on that little waffle. There are, if you go down to the bottom of the waffle, and let me share my screen here with you folks for just a second. I'm going to try to share my screen at any rate. We're going to go there, and we'll go there, and like this. And can you all see my screen?
Right now, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. The camera is what's wrong, not the transmission of the screen. So that's good. Okay. This is our Google screen. And for today, I guess the special thing is Luther, whoever he is. I can't remember the name. But Luther somebody, not Lex, but the other Luther, I guess. At any rate, and these are, this is what we call the waffle up here in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click on it, you get a whole bunch of icons, and they're in kind of two batches. I consider two batches because there's a blank spot here, so that's a separator. But it's like that. And one of the things that right off the bat, I guess we have to talk about what a Google app is. And basically, Google Apps is a bunch of apps that are supplied by Google. Most of them are free. I think there's one or two of them, or several of them, that have like premium stuff that you can pay extra for. And we'll talk about that when we get to the drives. But by and large, they're free. Many of them require a Google account. In other words, you can't operate them unless you have a Google account, or you can't save things unless you have a Google account. So that's going to be something. If you don't have a Google account, doesn't mean you can't use them. It just means you can't use them fully necessarily. And some of them are only available on mobile devices. I don't use mobile devices, so I'm not really going to be able to talk too much. I mean, I use them. I use the telephone. That's it. And you know what I use the telephone for? Talking to people. Isn't that an amazing thing? I thought so. Okay. At any rate, and not all Google apps are listed in this waffle here, because when you get down to the very, very bottom of this thing, it says more from Google. And then you click on that, and it takes you to a page that shows you even more. I counted these, there's over 80 of them here. And this doesn't even show you all of them. I think that one of Tim's FYIs had a thing with 18 that aren't even listed on this batch. They're in development, or they're just brand new. So this is a whole bunch here. And guess what? We're going to cover each and every one of them tonight. No, we're not. We're not going to cover them all. There's far too many to try and cover them all here. So we're just going to cover a few of them. They break down, and it's kind of interesting. I just took a class on Google Apps Friday afternoon, and because I was going crazy trying to figure out how I was going to approach this thing. And I took a class online, and the lady had it all really nice, and I'm stealing her presentation with minor variations. But she broke it down into categories. She had about 6 or 7 categories. I kind of broke it down into 5. There's basic searching apps. There's communication gaps. There's productivity gaps. That's apps like your word processing spreadsheet, etc. There's storage. And then, for lack of a better term, I use the word entertainment. And I'm going to kind of go through and describe briefly what some of them do. We'll have maybe a couple demos of the things that I'm more familiar with, but I'm certainly not familiar with every single one of them. At the end of the program, if you will, if somebody reminds me, and I'm sure somebody will, I have a handout with some resources on where to get some information on the various Google apps and some training that's available through a really neat place called Get Set Up. I think that's what it's called, right? Get Set Up. Let's see. Yeah, Get Set Up. And they have some free classes online that are just really wonderful. At any rate, we'll post those documents and then you can load them. I didn't want to put them in there at the beginning because people tend to come in late and stuff. So then we got to put them in all over again. So I'll put them in once at the end of the program. Okay, the first thing we have is, of course, the search. And it looks like this, normally with the Google logo when they aren't celebrating some kind of special day. Most of us are familiar with that. You do a keyword search or you enter a question. Initially, Google operated, you had all sorts of Boolean operators, and they still exist, by the way. If you want to do that logical type of searching, you can still do it. It still works. But they've become much more AI, if you will, or artificially intelligent. And you can ask it questions. And many times, rather than give you a website or along with the website, it will give you an answer to your question. In other words, if I say equal 4 plus 2, whoops, first I've got to type inside the little box there, equal 4 plus 2, and I hit the enter key, it will come back and tell me that the answer is 12. No, 6. There it is. And there's my little calculator, and then I can do other things with it if I want to use it on the screen or whatever. I can type in numbers and put in calculations. So it gives me a little calculator, and that's kind of an automatic thing there. Or you can say, let's try, I don't know if it'll have the answer to this, but how many bones in the human body? And it tells you the adult human skeleton is made up of 206 bones. And so you could, if you want to, there are additional websites there. Okay, whoops, thanks for the line, whoever annotated that. It's right over here. I guess I should probably do some annotation too. I got out of my, sorry about that. I accidentally got out of share screen. I clicked on the wrong item. Okay. I don't know where my annotate is at here. Well, I'll deal without it. Thank you for whoever annotated that, however. Okay. But it will give you other sources if you need to have other sources, including a skeleton, like so. But if all you want is the answer, 206 bones is the answer for you. So you can do that with it. And don't be surprised if you ask it a question if it gives you an answer. You can also, and I found this to be great because I just kind of discovered this in the last couple of years. When I want to do something with my computer or a piece of software, like I want to know how many people here, just a real quickie, I'm going to go back and stop the share for a second because I can see most of you on the screen. Just a show of hands here. How many have heard of Google Hum? Anybody?
Hum?
Hum, H-U-M, Hum.
Oh, I thought it was H-U-M-P.
No, Hum. Hum a few bars, as in, okay. Well, on your mobile device, if you click the microphone or tap on the microphone on the Google app, you can say, what song is this? And if that song is stuck in your head and you can't remember the name of it, but you want to know, you just say, Google, hey, Google, what's the name of that song, or what's the name of this song? And then it'll say, I'm waiting, hum a few bars, and you hum to it, and you'll see the little roster of waveforms going, and you do about 10 or 15 seconds of it, and then it comes back and it says, I think it's one of these songs, and it gives you like 3 or 4 choices. And it's pretty good with contemporary and pop tunes. If you're into classical music, it sucks. Okay, but for general pop tunes, it's pretty good. I have no idea whether it works for heavy metal or rock tunes or anything like that, because that's not my kind of music. I wouldn't even know where to begin to hum that. But it's kind of a fun thing to use. But as far as I know, it only works on your mobile devices. So let me try and back to my share screen again here. And we're back. Okay. So, but that's the thing, you know, so you can ask it like how, whoops, Daisy, let me get back up here, and how to use Google Home. And it tells you how to get started using the Google Home feature. Okay. You can access books on Google. It has, I don't know how many millions of copies of books available, and that are available online. Some of them you can read, some of them you can buy from them. The ones that you can read online, others will just be able to find you. You can type in a quote from a book, and it will find the quote for you somewhere in a book. That I've had varying degrees of success with that. I've tried it on a few things, and it works okay sometimes, but it's not 100%. And when you figure the number of books that are out there and the number of books they have, it's not so difficult to understand why it doesn't hit 100% of the time. But it is available, and you can play with it and try it. Google Shopping is another item. Let's see here. Where is Google Shopping at? I thought I had it up here somewhere. Let's see. Why am I not seeing it there? Okay, so I started bringing up participants. Wait a second here. Okay. Google. Why is that in my way? Huh. Oh, that's not any fun. There we go. Okay. I got to make this a little bit smaller because otherwise it gets hidden behind some of the stuff from Zoom. Okay. So is that the one I want? Yes, it is. Okay. Zoom for Google. Okay, that's Google Maps. That's the one I want. I thought I had it here. I thought I had Google Shopping. Nope, that's not it. That's finance. I don't know where Google Shopping is. I'll have to go and get it. Let me get the Google Shopping. Okay, where is Google Shopping? Use Google Shopping. Here we go. Ultimate Guide to Google Shopping. Spot blog. Okay. Where's Google Shopping? Yeah, we'll find it. Excuse me, I gotta move you out of the way. Shopping. Anybody see shopping here?
Try the tab next to all up at the top of your search.
The tab next to?
At the top of your search results. The one with the tag says shopping.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
That's how I always get there.
Bob, you're a wonder. Thank you. Okay. And you can type whatever you're looking for in there. If you know a product by its name and you want to look for it specifically, we can type Logitech mouse, and here are a bunch of Logitech mices. I don't know how you say it. At any rate, mice, okay, that too. And if you know a specific model number, you can look for that specific model number, and it'll find that for you as well. Okay, so that's the Google Shopping. If there are any coders out there, if you write code, Google has a code search where it has open source coding available. And you can find coding on lots of different topics and lots of different areas. I have really no idea about programming. I haven't done any really serious programming for probably the last 20, 25 years. So I really, really don't have a clue as to what kind of information is out there. But if you are a programmer, if you like to write code, or even if you don't like to write code and are looking for an easier way to write some of it, it sounds like it's very promising. We mentioned Google Home. Google Maps is this guy here. And you can search for things. It's more than just searching for something here. Let's go to, I can type in the name of, I'll type in my old school where I was teaching at, Columbia College, Chicago. And there's good old Columbia. There's a street view of it. That's the Michigan Avenue building, or one of the buildings on Michigan Avenue there. It's all over the place downtown. Here's a map of all those places if you want to get there from somewhere. We'll go from, I'm going to take directions. And just briefly here, I'm going to come from my old address in Chicago. Oops. And Chicago, there it is, okay. And there is a map showing me how to get there. On the road, it's coming in slowly, there it is, okay. Now that's if I'm driving, and it gives me several different alternate routes, the dark blue, etc. We're going to be talking about this again in August, so I don't want to go too much into detail here. But I'll just call your attention at this point to a couple of these little gizmos up here. This is for a car. This is public transportation. They also, although because this is such a short trip and mixed field isn't there anymore, they also have an airplane normally, but here's the airplane, but it's grayed out because there is no air travel from there to the loop. But maybe if mixed field was there, they'd still have the old helicopter rides, because the old house was a half mile from the airport. But they have bike routes. They have walking routes. And one of the things I found interesting during the pandemic, instead of going to the gym, I did a lot of walking through the neighborhood. And I like to keep track of my mileage. Well, it was kind of hard to keep track of it because I'd go through parks and take trails and things like that. And one day I was using Google to try to estimate my distance around a park. And I looked and I saw this funny little squiggly line that was just a little different color than the green of the park. And I discovered it was a trail through the park. And Google has the trail. And as soon as I clicked on this little guy up here, this walking character, I could walk that trail, and it knew how long the trail was. And it could figure out my my trip and my distance based on that. And like I say, we'll be talking about that again in August. And there's a whole bunch of things here, and we're going to spend a whole session on Google Maps. Okay. At any rate, but I wanted to mention that to you. So there's more. This is public transportation, by the way, and it'll give you the bus routes and what bus you take and what train you take and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a slick little thing. Anybody have any questions so far? I'm just ranting on here. I don't know whether you're sleeping or.
Does it have any Uber routes? Uber
routes?
Yeah.
I don't think Uber has any Uber routes. Uber takes you whatever way Uber takes you. They're all independent, so they don't have routes in particular necessarily.
Google?
But it may, for all I know. I don't know. I don't know how Uber works.
Uber use Google Maps.
What?
Uber use Google Maps a lot.
Well, yeah, they use Google Maps as a GPS, but I don't know if it would have where the Uber cars are at. Boy, Uber Google. Boy, that's hard to talk about. Is Uber Google with a straight face? I'm sorry. Okay.
If you call Uber, you can track where your ride is before it arrives.
Oh, I didn't know that. Learned something new. Thank you.
That's through their app, though.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's their app. All right. All right. Then you have something closely related to Google Maps, and that's Google Earth. And Google Earth is a little bit different. It starts out where you're above the planet Earth, and then you can go to just about any place on the planet, and it uses, what do they call that? I can't think of the term. But it uses the information from the satellites, and it creates an image, a ground image of just about anywhere on Earth that you'd like to go. And I know I have it here somewhere, I think. I thought I brought it up beforehand. I thought I brought some of these things up, and now I can't find them. Let's see, Google Earth. Google Earth, where are you, Google Earth? Earth to Google Earth. Okay, well, all right, well, we'll just go there from here. Google Earth is here. This takes a couple seconds to load, so you'll have to wait for it. But it gives you a 3D representation of the Earth based primarily on satellite imagery. There's a planet. It takes a little while to load, but once you get there, you can really find some neat stuff. Here we go. And let's see here. We can, I think we can we? All right, where are you at here? Come on. Make yourself work. Okay, let's try. I'll go. Nope, that's not going to work. That's the wrong thing. I didn't want that one. Okay, I did that backwards. You're going to let me go back? There we go. Why is it not? Okay, I confess I'm confused. It should be allowing me to access this, but it's not. I'm sorry, but I cannot do this. It's not going to work for me. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay.
You want my address here in Texas?
No, that's not going to do it. Sorry about that, Larry. It's just not. I don't know why it's not working, but it's not. Okay. Instead, I'm going to try and go to Google News. Here we go. Google News is kind of interesting. The nice thing about Google News is that it has information, it has topical information. You can find news, you can find out what's happening nationally, you can find out what's happening in science, you can find out what's happening in the world of finance, you can find out all the current political stuff you want. The nice thing about it is that it has multiple sources for everything. So if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or something in between or outside the boundaries of all of those things, you can probably find a story or an article or something, a news piece on whatever topic it is that you're looking for that's current, and get the slant that you want. If you like Joe Biden, you can get a Democratic slant. If you don't like Joe Biden, you can get a Republican slant. And if you don't like anybody, you can get a anarchist response to it, probably. But it does cover a bunch of different areas. There's a lot of attention right now on the trial up in Minneapolis, but there are other things as well. You can look at US news, world news. You can even look at your local news. It was funny, when they first introduced this thing, wanted to put this to the test. And I read a little one-sentence filler in the paper, and it talked about this kid that got attacked by a chicken, a rooster, down in Florida. And I said, I wonder if I could find that on the internet. And sure enough, I went in and I wrote in attack rooster. And sure enough, here's the story. Now, the closer to the home city, the longer the article. The further geographically away from the city, the shorter the piece. In other words, in the town where it took place, and I don't remember what it is right now, but in the town where it took place, it was like 5 or 6 paragraphs. And in Chicago, in a local paper, one of the local papers in Chicago, it was 2 sentences. So you can really get a different view of things. If something happens that you hear about and you want to know more, and you look it up in your local paper and there's 2 sentences on it, go out to Google News and look it up there and see if you can find it covered in the area where it's happening, and you'll find a lot more information on it in most cases. Okay. Google Translate is also one that I like a lot. It's a pretty simple, straightforward type of program to use. You just go out there. Oops, I don't want to use that one. Let me go to translate here. How do you translate? There you are. Okay. Translate is pretty straightforward. It will translate from one language to another language pretty easily without too much of a problem. Let me go out and get something in with some foreign stuff in it, and hopefully, whenever I type this in, I always get all these weird sites that are about, oopsie daisy, all right, yeah, that have some Chinese in it. So let me see if I can find it. No, I won't find it. Ah, here we go. This is a good one. And we won't play it. We'll just, we'll go out and look at it. Turn it off before we even get started here. And I'm going to take this. Stop playing, you silly machine. And I want to see what that is, so I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go over to translate. Well, it has a mind of its own. I'll make it stop. Okay. I'm going to go over to Google Translate. And it has something really neat here. It has something called detect language. And I want it to detect the language and put it into English. So I'm going to paste it. And it says, Wu Amin is demonstrating Yang style, 24 style Tai Chi Chuan with his back. In other words, back to the audience. But that's what this says. And if you want to know what it says or how it's pronounced, this is how it's pronounced.
吴阿敏被向示范杨氏24式太极拳。
So, if you want to hear the pronunciation, you can hear the pronunciation. Most of the languages will have that. And it'll work the other way around too. You can go in and we can change it. And I'm going to put something else in here. Okay, and I'm going to have it do that. And there is the Polish pronunciation, or the Polish version of it. And
Nazywam się John Nowak I urodziłem się w
there's the
Chicago.
pronunciation. I don't know, could you hear that? All right.
Yes, he said shit twice.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Thank you very much, Tony. Okay, and that's translate. Then we have finance. And with finance, it used to be that in the early stages of these searches, if you wanted information on finance, on your stocks or anything, you had to know the 3-letter or 4-letter abbreviation. And if you didn't, you got all sorts of weird information, additional information. But you don't have to know that anymore. If you want to find out about Microsoft, you type in Microsoft and hopefully it's going to tell you Microsoft Corporation. Here's what the stocks are doing. Here it is from early morning today to the close, from open to close. And that's on the, I believe that's New York Stock Exchange. But you can have your choice. You can go to Dow Jones, S&P, NASDAQ, Russell, VIX, and I think it has some other ones as well that you can go to. So that's the finance, okay? And those are pretty much the search items. There's also a Google Arts and Culture where you can find various museums, and if you're looking for particular artists or their shows, you can type that in and find them. It's not as straightforward, unfortunately, as other Google things. Some of the Google tools and apps, in my estimation, that's me, not necessarily anybody else, but they puff it up a little bit with they expound on it a little bit and say, oh, look at all the wonderful things you can do. And then you look at it and you try and do it, and it doesn't work quite the same way they want it to. But it can be useful. I've tried it a couple of times. And you can take a look at it. We can go back to it later if you want to. Okay. So under the searching categories, we have Google Search, Google Books, Google Shopping, Google Code, Google Hum, Google Maps, Google Earth, Google News, Google Translate, Finance, and then Arts and Culture. Now, in the category of communication, we have, of course, we start out with Gmail. And our Gmail is, here we go. This is Gmail. I have a theme back there, so it probably doesn't look like yours necessarily. But this is my Gmail right now, and I'm looking at my Zoom listings for all the Zoom programs that I go to. This is my inbox. It looks a little zany and goofy too. But And this is my Gmail. I'm going to exit the share for a second. Show of hands, how many people have Gmail accounts? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I can't see the others yet. 6. All right, not everybody's here. Not everybody's visible. Okay, so at least 6 of you have a Gmail account, and probably I'm going to assume that a couple more of you have it. You just don't want to admit it because you're afraid that I'm going to write you a letter or something. Okay, at any rate, if you have a Gmail account, you will have access to everything that we're talking about here, and you'll have access to all of the features. There are a couple that require some pay, I think, in there, especially in that category of the drive and storage. But by and large, you'll be able to use everything that's out here. There are some things that you cannot use if you don't have a Google account, but you should get one if you don't have it, just so that you can gain access to those other items. Trying to create a playlist in YouTube, you can't do it unless you have an account. You can't create a playlist for yourself. Okay. Gmail is a biggie, of course. That's the one that everybody has or knows about, because we've all heard about that. People have that for their, why am I not sharing my screen? Hello.
I don't know why you're not sharing.
It's not going to share the screen. There we go. Okay. I had to click it a couple times. I don't know why that was. Okay. Can you see it okay? Everybody? Somebody?
Not yet.
Not
Coming
yet.
up.
Coming up.
You
Yeah.
got it? Okay.
Got it.
All right. A little slow, I guess. Okay. Google Meet is basically Google's answer to Zoom. I just went to a training program yesterday on Meet and was underimpressed with it. It up until recently, it was, as far as I know, the only one that had on-the-fly closed caption. But as of version 5.6.3 of Zoom, apparently with the permission of the host, you can have on-the-fly closed captioning.
It should be turned on, Joe.
I beg your pardon?
It's turned on. The system is turned on. Each user just clicks on the CC on their screen, and they should get the closed captions.
Yeah. And so I guess it just came out with the 5.6.3. So
Yes.
at least that was my understanding of it. Maybe it came out with one of the early ones and I didn't know about it, but I thought it just came out with 5.6.3. So, but the Meet program is pretty much the same thing as Zoom, except that you can do it through Google instead of through Zoom. It's got a couple nice features, but you know, other than that, it's nothing spectacular. From the thing about the closed captioning in Google Zoom, or excuse me, in Google Meet, I get it right. And I also think in Zoom, when you get the closed captioning, if you're doing a discussion between two people and you only have two people on the screen, you get like 6 lines of closed captioning. If you've got a full screen of people, you get pretty much 1 line at a time of text. So, but one of the things that you can do with the Zoom, I think now, is you can go to, you can get a transcript of the whole program, not just the recording, but you can get the transcript of it. Okay. Google Podcasts. Google Podcasts are available as well. And if you're a podcast fan, you can use this to search for podcasts on just about any topic you want. If you're interested in, and I'm not going to take politics because it's so overwhelmed and everybody's doing it. You can't get the news without getting that stuff, and we don't need to get into that kind of conversation. But if you want a podcast, let's say you want a podcast about, I don't know.
Putin.
What?
Putin.
That's political, Tony. I just said I'm not going to do any politics, okay? All right. Let's go with pets, if there's any kind of information on pets. And we have episode results. Catitude, episode 138, Community Cats Without Catitude. Oh Behave, episode 384, Fleas, Ticks, and Lyme Disease. And it goes on and on about pets. So you can find a podcast. If you're a podcast listener, you can find a podcast of your choice. You can find podcasts all over the place. Everybody's got them. All the networks have them. Their commentators or reporters all have their own podcast and like that. But you can find them here in one big search engine. Okay. If anybody's running a blog, you have Blogger. Google has had Blogger for, gosh, over a decade. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time that they've had Blogger. It's very simple and straightforward to use. If you don't know what a blog is, it's basically a log that you keep on the web. It's a combination of two words, web and log, and they take the B from web and log from log, and you become a blogger. And that's where that term comes from. And it's basically a way to keep a journal, and it's a little bit more lengthy than you have with things like Facebook and things like that, where you have maybe a paragraph or two. Some people use it for commercial purposes. Some people use it because they have an interest in a particular topic and they want to share it with the world. And they'll write long articles on various topics. It's kind of like a podcast, except that they write articles instead of broadcasting them. Okay. Google Classroom, I'm not real familiar with, nor with Jamboard. These are also kind of educational communication devices. Classroom is geared for teaching and teacher-student relationships back and forth, educational purposes. Jamboard is kind of like a whiteboard that you can draw on and write on and things like that. Pretty much like what we have available on Zoom. And then we have Google Duo, which is similar to FaceTime if you've used FaceTime before. And you can have, theoretically, you can have up to 32 participants can be linked together using that. Then we have the Office suite. And I think everybody's pretty much familiar with Office suites, whether you have Microsoft Office, whether you have LibreOffice, whether you have some other kind of Apple Office or what have you, you're familiar with the Office integrated software package. Usually has a file that creates word processing documents, spreadsheets, and presentation slides. And that's exactly what you have with Google. They have not given them fancy names. They simply call them what they produce, which are Google Sheets and Slides. And that's what they're called. They're Docs, Sheets, Slides. That's the name of the programs or the apps. They also have something called Google Sites, where you can design web pages. And then there's Keep, where you can transcribe notes, keep track of images, websites that you're using for articles, etc. Use them in conjunction with the Office apps if you want to. And there's a calendar to keep track of your schedule for you. And those all fall under that category of Office Suite.
Joe, it's not showing us any of this.
No, it's not. I'm telling you this. Okay.
Okay.
You're right. It's not showing you. Very good. Thank you. I knew what I wanted to say, but I know that not everybody else is seeing it. Thank you for telling me that, Tony. I apologize. Okay. Here's the docs. Here's the sheets. Doc sheets and slides are similar. And everybody that talks about and promotes docs, sheets, and slides says, oh, it works just like Microsoft Office. No, it don't. It does not work just like Microsoft Office. I have found multiple instances of times where it does not work the same way as those programs. As an example, in your spreadsheets, in Excel, if you are working on a very large spreadsheet and you are in the middle of something, it's the end of the day, you're going home, you're at cell, I don't know, AC 112. You leave your cursor there, you save the file, you go home, you come back the next day, you load the file up, and boom, there you are at AC 112. Okay, that's like 30 rows or 30 columns in and 112 rows down. Okay, well, if you do the same thing on sheets and you leave your pointer or your active cell at AC 112, when you come back the next day and reload it, you're at A1. You've got to find that site, that space all over again. And that's just one item. A number of the function commands are different or don't even exist on in the same way on the two systems together. So there is some learning curve necessary if you're going to leave Microsoft Office or if you're going to go to Microsoft Office from docs, sheets, and slides. Don't just assume that you know how the package works. It is different. And the differences are frequently very subtle until you need them. And then you're in a hurry and you saying, where do I get this? How do I do that? It's not all that easy. Like I say, I have not used Google Sites or Keep Calendar, but here's your docs, here's your sheets. I'll load a sheet just so we can see what it looks like. Yep, I wanted to blank. I didn't want to. At least I think I can load it. Ah, okay, this is a to-do list. I didn't want that. Hello. There we go. And it takes a little while because you're operating online. You're not operating with a program that's in your system. So here we go. And here's an untitled spreadsheet. The one thing that's interesting about docs, sheets, and slides is that this operates, there is no save file button. If I go up to file up here, you'll notice there's no save. Anybody take any note of that before? You know why there's no save? Because it saves everything you type as you type it. It saves everything you type as you type it, whether it be your spreadsheet or not. And the title up here is Untitled Spreadsheet. Back 40 years ago, when I first started working with computers, I was working with the Radio Shack TRS-80s, and they had a program. It was called Scriptsit. It was a word processing program. And when you started the program up, you had to give your file a name, and it did basically the same thing. And if you left the program if you didn't leave the program properly, if you didn't exit it properly, you lost your file because it didn't save till you were finished with the program. And exiting since you already had the name, that's what it did. It named the file as you left. This one actually saves the file as you're working on it. So, but it does have some nice features. You can work with other people on the same document and make it available to them. You can see all the versions of the program, but I think you can do that same thing with Microsoft Office. But at any rate, the thing about Doc Sheets and Slides is it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Okay. Then we get into storage. Storage is a different ball of wax. We have lots of different storage available to us. We have Google Drive, Google One, Google Photos, and Google Collections. Google Drive, if you have a Google Gmail account, that's where your Gmail is stored. It's stored on Google Mail, or on Google Drive, excuse me. If you are linked, if you have an Android phone, you are linked to your Gmail account, or you are linked to Google Drive. And when you take a photo on your Android, it will go to your Google Drive account in the clouds. Now, it's supposed to do that immediately. I have found, and not everybody is this way, I know some people take their picture and 2 seconds later, it's in the cloud and they can find it on any machine anywhere if they access their Google account. On the other hand, I take a picture today and I feel like I just went to Walgreens and I'm waiting till tomorrow for the film to get developed, because it doesn't show up in Google Photos on any other devices until usually the next day, about 12 or 14 hours later. It does show up on my phone when I access Google Photos, but it does not show up on my other devices until the next day. But I'll go out to Google Photo here so we can see what it looks like. And here's some photos that I took. By the way, this Saturday is Tai Chi Day. And so my wife, in her wonderfulness, created this out in our backyard. This is a yin-yang symbol. She did that with colored mulch, and that's about 12 feet across. So that was a lot of work on her part. She's a wonderful person. I like her a little bit. I think we'll keep her around for a while. But at any rate, that's Google Photos. Google is instituting a new thing with its Drive right now, though, and we need to talk about that a little bit. Google has the Google Drive and Google One. Google Drive, you get the first 15 gigabytes storage, no charge. Starting June 1st, after you hit that 15 gigabyte top, you're going to have to pay. And the payment schedule, I believe, is something like $199 for 100 gigabytes of storage, and 200 gigabytes of storage is $390 or $299, or yeah, $299. And then if you want to have a terabyte, it's another ridiculous number, $10.99, and then you can even get 2 terabytes of storage if you want to for your stuff. And that's on a monthly basis, okay? At any rate, that would be on Google One. And if you want to know how much storage you have. You have to have an account in order to have Google Drive. But if you go down to the very bottom of your listings there, you'll find, and let me see if I can't get there from here because, okay, well, we'll empty the trash then. That will do it for us, I hope. Hang on. I'm getting rid of my trash here, or trying to. Okay, at the very bottom, you have, it tells me 7.31 gigabytes of 15 gigabytes are used. And then it has this little icon down here. And if I click on that, it will take me out to a dashboard and it'll tell me that I have my Google Drive has 0.78 gigabytes used. Gmail accounts for 5.62 gigabytes and Google Photos accounts for 77.77 gigabytes. Now, it's important to understand, and I don't understand it fully, quite honestly, but that 15 gigabytes is your Gmail and your photos. Now, that's your photos that are at highest quality. If you use Google Photos, and if you don't want the very, very prettiest high quality film, in other words, you're not taking photographs for National Geographic, you're taking pictures that you're gonna show to your friends and family maybe 1 or 2 times, and then you're gonna throw them out or they're gonna sit on a drive somewhere forever, okay? You can, in the settings of Google Photos, you can tell the computer that you want the photos to be stored as, I forget what the terminology is, I think it's high definition or whatever, which is the lower quality of image. And to my way of looking at it, picture is a picture. It looks fine in either one of these things. I'm not printing to National Geographic. I'm not trying to get it published in a national magazine. The picture I see on my phone is usually pretty good for what I want. I'm not going to win any photograph awards, but that's fine by me. I'm not worried about it. So if that's how you feel about it, you're pretty much unlimited as to how much you can store there. But if you start storing your photos in high definition on the cloud and you put them in Google Photos, you're going to hit that top number pretty quickly. So be aware of that. That's going to start June 1st. And I would suggest that you go out and Google is letting people know about it, and take a look at Tim's FYIs. He's got a number of articles on the topic that will explain it all to you. I'm not real concerned about it. I'm quite a ways off from my stuff, and I always have my pictures saved in the lower quality format, so it's probably not going to affect me a whole lot. I hope not. Okay. And finally, we get to Google and YouTube. And YouTube is a source of videos, as we all know. It has lots of stuff, if you will, on just about anything. You can watch the old guy feed his raccoons every night out on his back porch up there in Nova Scotia or Canada or wherever he's at. You can watch Kitten Academy, as Gene does every morning. This guy takes in mother cats and gets the kittens born and adopted and stuff, and has that on live feed. If you want to stay closer to home, you can take a look around Chicago, and there's all sorts of things there. Or you can take a class. There are just about anything you want to do on your computer. Go to YouTube, ask the computer how to do it, how to find the net present value in a spreadsheet. There will be a video on it, almost guaranteed. Somebody has done a video on how to do that with Excel or with Docs or with just about anything that you want. They'll show you how to do it. If you have any kind of how-to question, you can probably find it on YouTube. If you just want to be entertained, you can find audiobooks there. You can find music, recordings, albums, old radio programs, full-length motion pictures, you name it, you can find it on YouTube. If it's either audio or video, it's out there and it's available. Also, in that entertainment category, there's something called Stadia, which is a cloud-based gaming app. I have never used it. My understanding is you can play some games that you already have preloaded. I think they are Google games, but I'm not certain. And then you have Google Play, which is your Google Play Store, which you go to for even more apps that you'll put on your screen and probably use twice in your lifetime. Okay, and I think that's about it. It's been very quiet out there, and I appreciate it. And it's time to wake up now, everybody, and say your piece. So we tried to cover a lot of territory out there.
One of the apps that was showed up on your screen said Cardboard. What the heck is Cardboard?
Oh, Cardboard. Oh, I'm so glad you asked about that. I didn't cover that one. Cardboard is Google's entry into the world of virtual reality. You actually use, I think, and once again, this is something beyond my pay grade, but you actually use a cardboard viewer to view a virtual reality. I think you use your cell phone inside this cardboard box that you put over your head, and it blocks out all the light, and it presents you with an image, and it's a regular virtual reality type of love fest. I haven't played with it, but I encourage anybody who wants to go out there. You can use the cardboard one, which is very cheap, or you can buy fancy ones, fancy glasses that go along with the program. But that's what Cardboard is. Have you used that, Dennis?
No, I had no clue what it was. I just, when I saw the name, it didn't make sense. Cardboard? What's cardboard?
Let me see if I can go out there and take a look at it for you. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I have a nephew who's teaches and doesn't teach. He's a tech person over at in Indiana at one of the colleges up there, and he's into this virtual reality stuff and the what is it, the AR? I can't remember what that is, but the AR reality as well. Let's see here. Okay, let's try this and see what we can find.
Seen this.
Alrighty, let's see here. We'll go here. We'll go down to Cardboard and take a look at it. Just easier to do it this way sometimes. Okay, Cardboard. It tells you a little bit about experience virtual reality in a simple, fun, and affordable way. And these are the three different things. You get a viewer, and you use your cell phone or your smartphone, and you're set and ready to roll with virtual reality. What do you think of that?
It rocks.
I'm glad you like that, Tony. Okay. Yeah, that's the Cardboard program. Yeah, I didn't even think to cover that one. And like I say, that's only a smattering. There's I don't know how many we talked about here, 20, 25. But there were 80 of them on that page that I showed you just a few moments ago. And I just read an article right before session today. I think it came from Tim's FYI file, and it had 18 additional Google apps. And they either are not on that list yet, or they're currently in development and you have to ask for them, but you can experiment with them if you want to. So there's a lot of stuff out there that Google has available for you. Any other?
Joe, you mentioned that on the Google spreadsheet, there's no save because it saves everything. Does that mean that one of the drop downs is open and it gives you a list of all your?
Yes. Yeah. And when it's saved, it's saving the file as unknown file. But then if you go up there, it's actually a dialog box, and you can type in there. If you type a name in there, then that will be the name of the file that it will be saving, and it'll save that over and over and over again. You'll have access to it. I haven't, like I say, I have not worked with it a lot. I tried it when I first found out about it. I gave it a try. It really wasn't my cup of tea. And then I decided every now and then, every year or so, I decided to go back and give it another try. And it's just not something I want to do. I don't want to have to learn it all over again. It's one of these things where, if you have a car and you're driving the car and it's an automatic, the lights switches in a slightly different area and things like that, and that's fine. But then you got something that's got even more changes to it. The radio's in a different place, and the switches are different. Normally your turn signal's on the right, but on this car it's on the left, and it takes you get an idea of the kind of changes. They're just little things, but they drive you nuts, and that's what happens to me. I've gotten to the point where I work with Word, I work with Excel. Those are my software applications. I'm willing to pay the price to have the software and use it. It does what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want it to be. And so that's what I use. But if you're economical, if you don't want to spend the money on that software, then certainly docs and slides and sheets, very economical, and they're good. They really do a good job. They just don't do the job the way I like to do the job. And that's not a bad thing necessarily on either of our parts, on my part or on the part of Google, who made the software available. It's just we're different, and differences are okay. Okay, if it works for you, that's great. That's wonderful. Okay. Other questions?
Chuck, you got a question?
Yeah. For several years, I've been doing a lot of research about environmental issues, and Google Scholar is a resource for that. Sometimes it's scholar.google, but it gives you not only actual scientific research going on in various universities around the world, it can give you legal documents about patents and all kinds of information like that. So I mean, it's a real good resource. You want to actually read the court case of what's going on in these trials, you can get that typically through Google Scholar. So if you're
Google Scholar is another one that's really good for academia.
Yes.
But
also your local,
it's really
your local library, Joe. Homewood Library is one of the better ones, but their databases they've got, you can get all kinds of books, videos, download free, typically through your local library right online. So they've got a
one of them
database to search things out. One of the better ones for repairing cars is Mitchell On Demand. And I typically go to Tinley Park where I use it there when I have a real tough problem. I did teach auto for a couple of years, and there's still a lot of challenges coming on with the new cars, but it's an experience to have a car drive by itself. And
what's the name of it, Chuck?
Pardon?
What's the name of the program?
Oh, Mitchell On Demand. It's available through Tinley Park. They got
Mitchell On Demand. Mitchell.
It used to be available through AutoZone and other places, but mechanics complained too many people knew what they were doing. But, you know, if you go to Massachusetts, someplace in the East, you can get access to a lot more repairs and actually watch them repair your car with the internet.
So you say it's called missile, like a missile in space? Missile on demand?
Yeah, Mitchell,
Tony.
M-I-T-C-H-E-L-L.
Oh, Mitchell. Thank you.
Mitchell. It was one of the first ones, but it's very thorough. It's got all the trouble problems in there.
Chuck, if you know the URL on that, why don't you put it in the chat and then people can do that, because it sounds like a really good one.
Okay, I will do that. It's
and then put it in the chat for everybody.
And I'll put some chats in there information. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Questions, comments, rude remarks?
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. We appreciate
You're welcome.
Appreciate the energy, appreciate the preparation, and appreciate the playback.
Okay, I'm going to be putting three files in the chat.